was refreshing to see the loss of Zeke finally impact this team. But after a loss, this group still has a commanding lead for best record and most points for, keeping them atop the rankings. It has been a roller coaster ride for the expansion team of the ICPA. They started the season firing on all cylinders and then gradually backed themselves into mediocrity, but recently have been surging once again. This team has been blowing up the scoreboard the past couple weeks and now finds himself with a half-game lead for first in the better division and only 5 points out of the second highest scoring team. The Young Guns have to be feeling good going into possibly the game of the year next week against the following team on this list. Good morning, Keenan Allen. Holy fuck! Caught 12 out of 13 targets for a whopping 152 yards and 2 touchdowns? And I don't think this was a fluke. And with an easy schedule the rest of the way, we could see a lot more games like this from the target whore out in LA. But it wasn't just Keenan that was impressive. It was the entire team. Putting up 146 points in a week where Zach Ertz finally looked human, Todd put up his second lowest score of the year, and Derek Carr looked lost the entire game. Now that's scary. Not to mention the fact that the Cowboys just showed they are now all in on Alfred Morris as their running back. This team is finding itself just in time for the playoff push. It was a nice solid win for this group. No one went off besides Brady. It was more just an all-around good team performance, which is nice to see since most of the year there have only been 3 players carrying this team every week. Also, reports are saying Greg Olsen could be back next week, filling a vital hole for this team. Here's where we start dipping into the pretenders on the list. I wish I could put this team back further, but all the teams below it have been struggling as of late. While Ashawn continues to look good, we're seeing that there's no one else this team can rely on. Marvin Jones, Amir Abdullah, and Devontae Parker are unstable to say the least, and the struggling Chiefs have hindered Alex Smith's performance, slowly pushing him out of the top 5 for fantasy QBs. Sure, T.Y. comes back from a bye, but he's had more weeks under 6 points than over. The team name fits because I don't trust a team like that. What a gritty win for this team, pulling out a last-second W in a week where it would have been better off not even playing a quarterback. A loss could have been devastating for the squad, as its next 2 matchups are against teams fighting for the last spot in the playoffs. Without much firepower on this team, it wouldn't be far-fetched to say the win against Spiller saved this season. And now for the opposite perspective on that game. This team just endured one of the most gut-wrenching losses of the year, pushing itself into a dark depression and almost forcing the front office to commit fantasy suicide. With 2 straight losses, this group finds itself in a slump at a very inopportune time. However, hope is far from lost. With more points out of all the 4 and 7 teams, this group still is listed as the number 8 seed going into the week. It controls its own destiny, which is all it can ask for after the devastation of last week. It only feels right to talk about the only other loss that can compete for the most sickening defeat of the year. When the ball left the foot of Blair Walsh, all TV screens around America showed a perfect kick right down the middle of the uprights. The Monday night game was taken to overtime. Wagner's nose was one Austin Hooper or Doug Baldwin reception away from more than likely winning, becoming 5-6, and taking full control of the 8th seed. They had done it. The first team to start 0-5 and somehow managed to control their own destiny with 2 weeks still left to go. But then, the kick fell short. And so did all the dreams of this fan base. With 2 matchups against the second and third highest scoring team, it doesn't look great for this group. But still, it's very possible for them to make the playoffs. It's just going to be tough to be mentally ready for the final stretch after the exhaustion it went through on Monday night. Unfortunately, this group ran to caps this week, as these guys would have pulled out a much-needed W against almost anyone else this past week. But it's unlikely Evan Ingram only has 1 catch again, and Julio has to score eventually, right? Like all the other 4 and 7 teams, it's a question of getting hot at the right time and maybe a little luck in the scheduling department. This team looks completely lost and is searching for an identity. I think it's time the front office looks internally and asks themselves, have our players quit? And if so, is it because of us? The incredible losses by Lieber and Spiller open up a window for this team, as this group could have easily missed the playoffs after starting 5-1-1 had those two losses not occurred. Can this team take advantage of the gift it just received from the fantasy gods? If not, it could be a long offseason for what was the early Super Bowl favorite. Is anyone paying attention to what's brewing over there at the DeChambeau organization? 3 straight wins brings this team right into the pack with all the other 4-7 teams. The team that has taken an astonishing amount of shit all year turned it into motivation and actually has a shot at making the playoffs. The issue now is that the early season debacle leaves his team with too few amount of points, forcing them to need some outside help. But in the last week, this team faces Spiller, so win out, and who knows what could happen. This squad is in a pretty similar situation as the 11th ranked team. It's just that that third win was clutch for Wilson and gave him the slight advantage. This team does have 30 more points, however, which gives it a slightly better chance of making the playoffs. But it's still 88 points behind the 8th seed, so it's probably also going to have to rely on some outside help. Unfortunately, it doesn't play any other 4-7 teams, keeping them from directly affecting another playoff contender by winning out. Still, this team just needs to take it 1 week at a time and hope for the best. This is the strongest the 12th seed has looked all year, and that's something it can hang its hat on going into the final stretch.